Buongiorno ragazzi, o buonasera, buonanotte, buon pomeriggio. This is the 8th of our virtual classes. And before I start, I hope that this is the last time that I need to do this. Some people are writing, asking about the midterm, what they need to do. Again, what you need to do in lieu of the midterm, as in those of you who are not present for the midterm, right? What you need to do instead of the exam is send me 8 sentences about your typical day using are verbs. Are verbs, okay? What are those? That is the first group of regular verbs we studied, right? And regular verbs are the ones that follow a pattern, right? Remember that there are basically 3 groups of regular verbs: are verbs, the ones that end in are, like cantare, amare, parlare, suonare, etc. Then ere verbs, like correre, right? And then ire verbs, like dormire. So I only need 8 sentences using are verbs about your typical day, of course, in Italian. Write them in any format you prefer. Send me a photo, send me a Word document, send me a PDF, even a screenshot of your computer with any software. It doesn't matter as long as it's readable and it has your name on it, okay? So that's it, and I hope it's the last time that I have to refer to this, because I think I've mentioned it in at least 5 of the 8 videos I've uploaded here. On to the topic of the day. So, today's topic has some complexity, but I do think that what we have done so far has prepared us sufficiently for it. And of course, it's an essential component of the Italian 101 class. It's called modal verbs. Okay, so first I'm going to start by showing you what a modal verb is in English in a very general way. So let me remind you before we start that verbs are the words that we use to talk about actions. Some examples: to play, to study, to read, to rest, right? And there are many others: to drink, to eat, to sleep, to drive, right? Now, notice that for all the verbs that I just listed, I was using this specific form in which in English you start with to and then you say the action, right? To play, to study, to read. That is the way that in English you refer to an action in general. What do I mean by in general? Well, an action that no one is doing, just, the action itself. You want to talk about the action of playing, to play, but no one's playing, right? You just want to talk about that action, to play. So that form of the verb, which refers to the action in general without anybody specific doing it, is called the infinitive. And in English, you construct the infinitive with to, like we just did, right? To play refers to playing in general. To study refers to studying in general, and so on. So now we're going to study a new type of verbs, right? They're still actions, okay? But they work in a slightly different way. And they're called modal verbs. An important thing to know about modal verbs is that they're never alone. They're always combined with another verb. And the way they work is that you express things about an action via these modal verbs. You express a desire to do an action, for example, or a need to do an action, or that you have the ability to do it, among many other things, okay? So modal verbs are always combined with a second verb, okay? Let's look at 3 specific modal verbs in English, okay? 3 very basic ones. To have to do something, to be able to do something, or to want to do something, okay? Let's look at some examples. I want to study. I hope this is something you actually want to do, because you're going to have to do a little bit of it, at least, concerning this lesson. I want to study. Another example, now with to be able to. He is able to eat. And yet another example, to have to. We have to work. So please notice that each of these sentences has 3 basic grammatical components. And I wrote them with these 3 colors in order to help you distinguish those 3 components. The first component, the one that I have colored in green, is called the subject. The subject is the person or people who are doing the action, right? So in I want to study, the person that wants to study is myself, I, right? So that I is the subject. I am doing the action of wanting to study. In the second example, the person that is doing the action is he, right? He is able to eat. The person of doing the action of being able to eat is he. He's the subject. Third example, we have to work. The people that have to work is ourselves, we, right? So we do the action of having to work, okay? The subject is the person or people that are doing the action in a verbal sentence. So those are marked in green in these 3 examples. And then we have 2 verbs. The one that appears first in each of the examples is the modal verb, and it's colored in red. Want is able, have, right? Want is a form of to want. Is able is a form of to be able. Have is a form of to have to, right? And then the third component, colored in blue, is the infinitive of the second verb. Notice that in all 3 examples, the second verb is in the infinitive form, right? That form that I referred to as talking about the action in general. So in the 3 sentences you find a to that is a part of that infinitive, right? To study, to eat, to work. This is the basic structure of a sentence in English that uses a modal verb. First, the subject, whoever is going to do the action, then the modal verb, and then the infinitive of the second verb. So if you think about this carefully, you will notice that even though each of these sentences has 2 verbs, the only conjugated verb is the modal verb. What do I mean by that? I hope you recall that I explained what to conjugate means. Conjugating a verb means changing the word so that it matches whoever is doing the action, right? So let's look, for example, at the second sentence I have here. He is able to eat. I say he is able to eat. I don't say he am able to eat, or he are able to eat, right? Why do I say is? Because that is needs to match the subject, which in this case is he, right? So that second verb, which is the modal verb, is the one conjugated. But the verb that follows is in the infinitive. It's not conjugated, okay? The cool thing about this is that this is exactly the same structure that you will find in Italian. So let's move on to Italian. Tre verbi modali in Italiano. This means 3 modal verbs in Italian. I want to look at 3 specific verbs with the same meanings that we just looked at in English. Dovere. Dovere. That means to have to. Potere. That means to be able to. Volere means to want. Okay? Dovere, potere, volere. And these are modal verbs, right? What do I mean by that again? I mean that these are verbs that you always use in combination with other verbs. So let's look at the structure that they use, exactly the same that we just studied. First the subject, whoever's doing the action. Then the modal verb, meaning dovere, potere, or volere, conjugated. And then finally the infinitive of the second verb, right? And remember that the infinitive in Italian is the form of the verb that ends in are, ere, or ire. So let's look at some specific examples of sentences in Italian with modal verbs. Io voglio cantare. That means I want to sing. I'm using the same colors to mark the 3 components of the sentence. Okay, so io, you already know, that means I, right? That is the subject. The person doing the action here is myself, io. Then voglio, that is a form of the verb volere. That is the io form of volere. I'm conjugating it, right? I don't say io volere cantare because I don't use the infinitive of the modal verb. I use a conjugated form. So io voglio, right? I change the verb so that it matches the subject. And then the next verb, I do not change. I use the infinitive. Cantare. Io voglio cantare. I want to sing. For the benefit of those among you that speak Spanish, very, very briefly, this is exactly the same that happens in Spanish. Think about the sentence yo quiero cantar. The verb querer is conjugated for yo quiero, and then cantar is an infinitive, right? It's exactly the same thing, but it also works the same way in English. I is the subject, want is the form of to want for I, and then to sing is the infinitive of to sing, right? Exactly the same structure in all 3 languages. Let's look at another example. Lei deve studiare. She has to study, right? Lei, she, that's the subject. Then I say has. I don't say she have to study, right? I say she has to study. I change the verb so that it matches the subject. And then the second verb, I do not change. To study, I leave the infinitive, right? Lei deve studiare means she has to study. A final example, noi possiamo finire. That means we are able to finish, right? Noi means we, right? Possiamo is the we form of potere, of to be able to, right? And then finire is the infinitive of that Italian verb that means to finish. This is the basic structure of sentences that use modal verbs in Italian. Now let's look at the conjugations of these 3 verbs. If this were a regular semester, I would ask you to memorize all this stuff. Because if you look at these carefully, you will notice that these 3 verbs, dovere, potere, and volere, are irregular, right? What do I mean by irregular? Again, I mean that they do not follow a pattern. So you cannot memorize a pattern to conjugate either dovere or potere or volere. You have to memorize the forms. But since this is not a regular semester and I'm not demanding as much from you as I would in a standard in-person class, I'm just going to ask you to look at this table for a while and memorize, not memorize, but just become familiar with the forms, okay? I'm going to pronounce them for your benefit. Dovere goes like this. Io devo. That means I must or I have to, right? Tu devi. You have to. One you, of course. Lui deve. must, or he has to. Lei deve, she has to. Noi dobbiamo, we have to. Voi dovete, you guys have to. And then loro devono, they have to. For potere, which means to be able to. Io posso, I am able to. Tu puoi, notice the open vowels. This is a verbal form that English speakers always struggle with because it has all those vowels, right? But just remember to pronounce it with open vowels and remember the sounds of the vowels. U sounds oo, O sounds o, I sounds e, and you just pronounce them one after the other. Puoi. Tu puoi means you are able to. Lui può, he is able to. Lei può, she is able to. Noi possiamo, we are able to. Voi potete, you guys are able to. Loro possono, they are able to. And then the last one, volere. Io voglio, notice that it has the li sound, right? Io voglio, I want. Tu vuoi, you want. Lui vuole, he wants. Lei vuole, she wants. Noi vogliamo, we want. Voi volete, you guys want. Loro vogliono, they want. Okay? And again, the way you use these verbs is always followed by the infinitive of another verb, right? Because even if in English you say I want, immediately people ask, what do you want? You want what, right? That's not a complete sentence. I want to eat. Okay, that's what he wants, okay? Same thing in Italian. If you use one of these verbs alone, people won't understand. They will feel that the sentence is incomplete. They're lacking information, right? So you don't say io voglio, that means I want, io voglio cosa, right? Tu vuoi cosa, io voglio mangiare, okay, he wants to eat, right? Exactly the same thing, right? Subject first, whoever is doing the action, then the modal verb conjugated according to the subject, and then the second verb in the infinitive form, okay? Activity. What do I want from you? I want 3 sentences. Each using one of these verbs. So one sentence for dovere, one sentence for potere, one sentence for volere, right? You need to make them too complicated. Just do exactly the same thing that I did in this video. One subject, modal verb, and then one final verb. But please don't make them all for you, okay? Switch the subjects a little bit, right? So, you know, io devo studiare, voi potete mangiare, loro vogliono volare, right? And there, I'm done, right? And just make sure that you're using the right conjugated form of the modal verb for your subject, and make sure that for your second verb you're using the infinitive, meaning that form of the verb that ends in are, ere, or ire. Okay? I miss you guys, believe it or not. You know, in this quarantine, I found that the experience of online teaching is very frustrating for me. I miss direct contact with the students. I miss going to the classroom. I don't feel that this is, I don't know, it's weird. I don't feel that this is the real thing. But the class is quite real. The grades are quite real, right? And I'm gonna dare say that it's quite easy, right? Notice that I'm trying really not to be very demanding, right? I'm trying to help you, and I'm not being strict with deadlines at all. Just send me the stuff whenever you're able to, right? But please do, because I'm positive that once this crisis ends, the college is going to be very strict about how people came up with these grades that you guys are going to be given. They're probably going to be checking, our ledgers, our lists of grades, right? So I'm going to give everyone the grade they deserve based on the work that they have done and that they are doing. So If you're submitting your activities, you're totally fine. If you're not, I am going to have to give you an unsatisfactory grade, right? Also, I'm not entirely positive about this, but I do believe I saw an email regarding this that you have the option of changing your grades to a pass-fail format, right? So you always have that option, right? And if you're not satisfied with your grade, you can simply turn it into a pass, right? But I would not advise you to do that if you can spare 15 minutes, not more than that, maybe 20, for each of these videos and the activity, okay? It's fairly easy, and huge majority of you are following the class and sending me the activities, and you're going to get a very satisfactory grade. And you're not going to feel inclined to change an A for a passing grade, right? An A is much more useful. So, in short, watch the videos, do the activities, get your A, right? That's the smart thing to do in Italian this semester. Grazie ragazzi. Please communicate me any kind of struggle you're having. Come with any questions, via email or WhatsApp, whatever. I'm totally available, and I have your back. We're going to successfully complete the semester together. Grazie ragazzi. A mercoledì.